Let's continue learning how our home inspector is your advocate, your best advocate to find those problems that an appraiser is going to call out on a VA loan. Another thing that you guys have taught me, the home inspectors, is water damage on, say, Masonite. I think that's what it is, Masonite siding, or water damage on stucco because of water sprinklers, the water systems here. You want to talk about that a little bit?
I mean, I don't see it often just because it would have to be, for the most part, a grass sprinkler close to the house. So if the so if you have a patch of grass close to the house, I will see calcium deposits on windows or siding. That's where you would find that. But not I would see more often from rain or monsoons than actually
Ah,
water damage from a sprinkler system.
okay, got it.
Yeah, that would be more rare on my end, I would say.
Okay, okay.
But
Okay,
yeah,
let's talk about roofs because they can look at that roof. So tell me what they're looking at when they're looking at the roof, and what do you look for when you're on a roof?
well, I'm getting on the roof. That
Thank
might
you.
be the difference. They may not. So again, if it's not visually at the end of its life from the ground, then they're probably not catching, a lot of any roof defects, which would then go on to us or a roofer for sure.
Okay.
So if they're not getting on a ladder, then they would have to notice it from the street or the ground.
Okay.
But we get on the roof and walk the entire roof just to, find any defects.
Okay. So if they did see missing shingles from looking up, that would be that's a problem, right?
Again, yeah, we
Doesn't
would get
happen that often, but
doesn't, but yeah, that would be the only way they would be able to, write it up because it would be visual from the ground.
okay, okay. Anything else that you can think of? I'm just in my head mentally going over issues that have come up with different VA loans and different homes that I've had to have addressed. Broken windows, definitely. Flooring has definitely come up. Peeling paint.
And
Oh, railings. Like they're missing. Tell me, how do you know if there should be a railing on a, how do you know when there's supposed to be railings? Tell me what you're looking
so, I mean, for an appraiser on a VA loan, you probably two steps.
for.
If
Okay.
there's two more than two steps, they're probably going to want to see a railing. I believe it did go from three steps to two steps, but again, you're almost if it's one step, that's fine, but two or more, I'm going to say that the appraisers are going to want those just again for that tripping hazard.
Right, right. So what about elevated patios or decks? At what point do they need to have a railing? Like when does it become a safety hazard? Because
Yeah.
I've had that called out in the past and I'm not really clear on that.
It's so again, I would have to look at the numbers, but it's around 30 inches or so is usually that fall hazard where code wise would require a railing. But again, an appraiser may not be looking for codes. So if that deck is right at 30 inches and he's like, well, still, he could fall off and hurt himself, they may also require it, even though it's not code. That's only just assuming if they're looking for any kind of safety hazards. So that would be the difference between those that then, railings or no railings.
Okay.
But there is a set number. I just don't have it on the top of my head.
Okay. I think you're right on the 30
It's
and you are
30 or
also,
32. Yeah.
but you're also correct in saying an appraiser's not looking for code violations. They're looking for safety issues. And if
Yes.
they feel like, say, for instance, it's 2.5 feet or whatever that is, but it's within code to not have to have a railing, but there's rocks or a drop off. Yeah, the appraiser's going to call that out and say, that's not
Yes.
safe. I would call it out and be like, I don't think so. I'll have a couple little, beverages, my little drinks, and there I go
Yeah.
down the hill. Not so good.
So if
Yeah,
they're there to protect, obviously the lend and the VA or the veteran, then that would be something. They may not go with the code.
right, right. That is true. That is very, very true. I'm trying to think. Of all the ones that have been called out, I'm just like, oh yes. And I had a shed called out that had peeling paint.
A shed.
A
See,
shed.
yeah, so that is the other thing with VA loans that I've come across is they are wanting the termite to visually inspect every single structure on the property,
Yes.
which for us, if it's an outbuilding shed that wasn't permitted, I mean, it's not really something that we would have to go unless there was a roof that was caving in. But again, it's a non-permitted exterior structure, but the VA loan will require that termite. And then, like you said, that would be some where we may not go into the shed, but the appraiser will, because they're looking at the outbuildings more than we may, because we're looking at the main investment is the house.
Correct. That is a really valid point because we didn't think that the appraiser was going to call out really the slab in that garage we referred to earlier, and he sure the heck did. That was his thing. And obviously there was peeling paint on the garage, which we knew was going to be called out. We'd already negotiated resolving that, but we're like, why is he calling out this slab? It was like, it's not
Mm,
house. And he called it out. And they do look at the outbuildings, I think, more than and put more emphasis on that, I'm finding.
yes.
So that's just something, again, we have to keep in mind that VA appraiser is going to be looking at these things. We have to be looking at these things. And then there's one last thing that always comes up for VA appraisals, which is not something you do anything with, but I'm going to mention it here, is the road maintenance on dirt roads, because we have a lot of dirt roads here.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
And you don't really assess that or anything, but I do know that that's another issue that when we're looking at properties, we have to make sure that any road maintenance that's being done on that property is documented. Either it's, the neighbors are doing it, the county's doing it, a private party does it, or the current new future owner is willing to do it themselves. So that's sort of another thing. And appraisers drive on those those roads and they will call it out because
Wow.
they
Okay.
they they
That's
drove the road and they're like, this road is insane. I have had a couple of properties. I didn't sell any after going on this road, but literally you had to drive through two creeks to get to the property. I don't know if that would pass a VA appraisal because you would be trapped when it's monsoons
yes.
here. You can't get out. And there was one
Okay.
way in and one way out, and you had to pass two creeks, and it wasn't like little either. It wasn't like, 3 feet. It was like 25 feet across or more. It was like two car lengths across.
Wow. Okay.
So I
Yeah,
was
that would
like,
be
oh,
something that I would not have known.
yeah, that is a little scary to me. But people like to be out there. So
Yeah.
anything else that you can think of when you know you're doing a home inspection for a veteran on a VA loan that you've come across that I haven't mentioned?
So again, the same thing that I've run into, it's they don't talk to me or don't ask for anything from me. It's always the termite.
Okay.
So outbuildings and obviously getting an invoice. So from my
Have
perspective,
to.
it's the termite inspector that they really are looking at getting everything looked at, which again is fine, but not on our end. It's the termite.
Okay. Okay. Cool. All
And then
right.
obviously the other stuff will catch on the house. But
Yeah. Yes.
termite for getting the loan, it's all about the termite.
Right, right. And just so everybody knows, these are not the only things that a home inspector inspects. They look at, oh, electrical. I almost forgot. What if there is a messed up electrical system? Because they will call that out.
So again, I believe they're not going to be opening any
They
panels.
do.
The
They
dead face or the
No, no, not the dead face. They just open the panel and if it's
correct.
not labeled,
Correct.
they will call that out potentially, that it's not
Okay.
labeled because it's potentially a safety issue or you don't know what to turn off.
But like you said, with if they're in particularly looking at outbuildings in our rural area, you do have some handyman wiring in a lot of those exterior buildings. So if those are visually apparent, that will get flagged because they're going into all the exterior buildings that weren't necessarily permitted or done by a contractor.
I forgot about that. Yeah, you're right. And that has been called out. And I think that how we've dealt with it historically is it may have been called out by the home inspector, and then we've tried to have as much of that addressed before the appraiser got there. That is part of the benefit of having that home inspection, where you're in there, you're checking outlets, you're checking light fixtures, you're checking make sure all the appliances are working. You climb in I mean, you guys check everything, and I tell people they will get in every nook and cranny. I'm not gonna, but they will. And I do actually encourage my sellers to have home inspections so that they're prepared for these situations. They can resolve things before it even is called out by the buyer so that they can address any potential barriers to a VA appraisal, those type of things. But yeah, the electrical box. They occasionally
Yeah.
will look in there and go, oh, there's no labels on this.
Got it. Okay.
And
Okay.
I know
But
you
again,
do
they're
all
not
that.
doing an extensive, yeah, they're not opening any panel or dead faces or anything like that.
Oh
So,
God, no, 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 no.
yeah.
And just so people understand also, appraisers are typically at the properties maybe 10, 15 minutes, depending on how large the property is. The smaller it is, the faster they're in and out. They literally are looking for those obvious issues that we just talked about: broken windows, flooring, paint, unsafe decks or lack of railings, termite stuff, but that's usually not something they're going to see. Yeah, electrical box.
Yeah. And the VA, so the VA appraisers are there a little longer than
This is true.
a normal appraiser.
True. That is true. I
So
agree with
that
that.
would be, I mean, they'd have to be because the normal appraiser is pretty in and out. But if they're looking for those kind of things, they would be there a little longer.
Right. Okay.
So,
Cool.
yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you so much, Spike, for being willing to chat with me today about home inspections, focusing really on the VA,
Yay.
what we need to do for VA buyers. And we will have Spike's information posted below so you can reach out to him by email and phone, text. Do you have a website?
I do, but that's the best way.
Okay, so email or phone.
Yes.
Okay, cool, cool. Thank you. Thank you so much. And again, I appreciate your time today. Have a
Thank you.
wonderful day.
Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.
Have a good one.
Well, thank you so much for watching our video today on the kind of issues that a VA appraiser is going to be looking for and how your home inspector can help you avoid any issues that when that VA appraiser shows up, those problems have already been taken care of. This is just one of the many videos that I've done regarding home inspections. So please follow this link and thumbnail and watch the rest of the videos and learn more about home inspections as a buyer and a seller.